If you're like me, and it's easier to learn from a failed example rather than a good example, my complete annotated response and evaluation of a ChatGPT, is right here, and it's available on your compare contrast essay, where I also have your positive annotated version of a good essay. So note on that. But now let's go on to look at the essay map fail for ChatGPT. So to begin with, there's no thesis to organize the points. But it doesn't just stop there. Not only is there no thesis, the organization has no sort of logic even without a thesis to guide it. So notice how it moves from texture and flakiness, which is essentially its taste, right, to the process of creating it, and then back to taste again. Why does it move back and forward with taste? It would make more sense to group taste together, and did you have things like ease of handling with preparation time and browning, because all of those are about creating it. And then perhaps lose versatility at the end, where you're reflecting more broadly on, based on the different taste profiles, where would you use this kind of essay? Where would you use this kind of pie crust? Sorry, flip-flopping topics here. So there's no logic, and that leads to a sense of confusion and a failure to sort of build up on different points. So not only is your reader jumping around, but there's no continual build-up that leads to a final argument or idea, which makes sense in a paper that has no argument. It's just laying out different points, some accurate, some not, about a pie crust. Now, in this parallel one that I've written, we see that the thesis has a roadmap, beginning with time to prepare, ease of rolling out, and then moving on to its taste and the way it deals with different fillings, either sweet or savory. So each paragraph, first of all, is closely tied to that topic sentence and relates back to its place in the thesis. But there's also a sort of organic logic between these points, because when we're talking about time to prepare, most of that time is the chilling ingredients before, and then the chilling of the dough afterwards. So that is, in the creation of the dough is where we see this big time gap. And after you create the dough, what's the next step? Well, it's rolling out the pie crust. So there is a chronological connection here, and also chronological when it's going to move on then to taste, because after you've created it, you bake it, then you taste it, right? So there's a logic to the flow of these ideas beyond, hey, I just chose A, B, C, and D in my thesis. That is important for your essay, not only in clarifying things for your reader. Sorry, Siri keeps going off in the background. But also for sort of making a climax in the argument where one point leads into another and sort of springboards or supports it and makes the next point just a little bit more convincing because of the way it's ordered. So let's take a slightly closer look. Open with this sentence about grandma being busy, and so needing a pie crust that took less time. And then I lay out first, we've got about the same ingredients: water, flour, shortening, salt, in most pies. And if you notice, I use evidence for this because, one, it's my personal experience, right? I've got grandma's recipe. But two, I cite both Reggie and Davis because both of theirs have this same ingredients, as well as these same sort of time requirements on chilling ingredients before and chilling them afterwards. So I've synthesized their two points, and by referencing them both here in my synthesized statement about what a cold water pie needs, it gives this more weight. Because if you remember at the beginning, Davis is a James Beard award-winning chef, and Reggae is writing for Martha Stewart. So both of these people know their stuff. And to say that they agree that this is how you make a cold water pie crust gives this some weight that, yeah, this is an accurate reflection of what a good cold water pie crust requires. Chilling ingredients before, chilling the dough afterwards. So that's 1 to 2 hours chilling time. That's the center of my argument. All of that is cut out in a hot water pie crust, which only takes a couple minutes to boil the water. And here is where we get into citations and accuracy. Because if you go back to the ChatGPT essay, although some of its facts are right, in preparation time it says a cold water pie crust typically have a shorter preparation time. The dough comes together quickly and there's no need to wait for the water to heat. Hot water pie crust may require a bit more patience as the water needs to reach the desired temperature before incorporating into the dry ingredients. It takes less than a minute to boil a quarter cup of water in a kettle or in a microwave, which is what you're going to need for this pie. It takes 1 to 2 hours to chill the ingredients before and chill the dough afterwards. The amount of time spent boiling the water is negligible compared to the amount of time chilling. Because this doesn't have references and doesn't have specifics, i.e., how long does it take for water to boil versus how long does it take for all the ingredients to chill, this not only is it not factual, but we have no way to know where this is coming from. Supporting your evidence in a compare-contrast argument matters. Because not only do you want to know that what I'm saying about my pie crust is accurate, you want to know that I'm giving an accurate reflection of what a cold water pie crust is. And by saying, well, I'm pulling this from a James Beard chef and from a writer at Martha Stewart, that's probably pretty accurate. And then as this sort of naturally progresses to how we've chilled, how we've prepared the dough, the next step is, of course, rolling it out. And in this, instead of synthesizing things that other people have said, I use a direct quote because it lays out the science of the cold water pie crust, which is the importance of that cold water is it's not going to melt the shortening, which is fat. Hot water pie crust, it's the opposite. You have melted fat. So just logically, rolling out fat that's stiffer on purpose is going to take more effort and more time than rolling it out when it's melted and it's saturated, the flour. And then I give evidence from my experience. I can roll out a hot water pie crust 5 to 7 rolls, where it takes me 15 to 20 and a little bit more muscle to get that cold water crust. And that was especially significant for me and for my grandma because although she was fierce, she was very small. And so having a crust that didn't take as much physical effort was important. So see how here both the roadmap and then the evidence and the logic are all working together in ways that we don't see in ChatGPT, which not only is randomly putting points together and not grouping things despite the use of headings. It's not grouping different paragraphs that have similar points together. It's also not citing any of its evidence. So there's no credibility here, and when you can't tell where things are from, you can't evaluate whether they are right or not. So, ChatGPT fail. Anything that you do on your own, you're probably going to come up with a better essay. which leads to our extra credit for week 6, which is creating your own ChatGPT essay, just like I did, for the topic of your paper. So if you are comparing and contrasting pies from your grandma's recipe, put that in there. Whatever it is you are contrasting, comparing, making that argument, see how ChatGPT would do it, and then evaluate it with our rubric and explain the different grades that you're going to give here, the different marks, and reflect on these points, which is it making an argument? What is the thesis? What are the sources of evidence for the essay? Does it have real sources? Check it out. If it includes sources, can you find them? Does it use the sources accurately? Does it cite them accurately? And finally, does it convince you of anything? When you read it, do you think, wow, this is really good? Or is it just noise and information in a sea of noise and information? So this is an extra credit opportunity that you have to enjoy your own sort of victory over ChatGPT. I look forward to seeing what you write.